Hello, so today I thought we'd make some little spools. I think they're ideal to just keep a small amount of, say, twine or lace, something like that on. Instead of a big spool like this, I can put a small amount of that onto here and it'll take up less room on my craft desk, or I can take it to a crop or take it with me to a friend's to craft together when we're allowed. They are made out of recycled bits and pieces. Basically, wine corks. Doesn't have to be cork, it can be plastic corks out of a wine bottle, but they're just the ideal size, I think. I try and choose ones that are fairly flat at the end. Sometimes when you've used a corkscrew they get a bit mangled, but flattish ones are great. Some are sort of slightly tapered as well where they've been in the bottle. Doesn't matter particularly, but I try and choose a little bit straighter ones, sort of all the way down the same measurement. I've also got some cardboard. This is just packaging. It's corrugated cardboard, but it's quite strong. The corrugations are very, very small. So it is nice and strong because it's not flexible. And I've cut some little circles out of that card. Now this one is a small one. It's just got a small top and bottom. And what I did was, this one was this. I drew round one of my rolls of washi tape. So basically it was that size and I just drew around it on my cardboard. So I'm going to do a bigger one this time, so I've drawn round one of these little mini jam jar lids. So that's that size. That one is that size. So I cut 4 of these cardboard circles, and what I'm going to do with my really strong PVA is glue them together so that I've got a top and a bottom. It just gives it more strength. Now if you can happen to see which way the corrugation goes, that one's going that way. I'm going to glue this one so the corrugation's going that way, so that it will give it more strength. And I'm aware that I've got little bits that aren't exactly the same. It's not that important. I quite like the vintage shabby chic look. So my corrugation is going that way, so that one wants to go that way. It just gives it more strength if you have them going opposite directions rather than lining up. So that's that. So I've got a top and a bottom that size. Now what I did next was I covered my cork. I've got an old hymn book which was going in the bin at one of the charity shops, so I'm going to use that to cover my cork. Now if you wanted to and you liked the pattern on your cork and you didn't want to cover it up, you can leave it like that. You don't have to cover the middle. I just like the look of the music paper when it's covered. It would look quite nice, because what you could do is ink this up to match the colour of your cork, and then it would be a bit more cohesive. But I'm going to actually cover mine. So I'll set my circles aside. I've got some, so the remnants of it, watered down PVA. And because your cork is slightly, ever so slightly absorbent, it might take a couple of goes, a couple of coats of PVA because it might sink in a little bit. So I've got watered down PVA, and I'm just going to start this side, cover my cork with my paper. So I've glued it, and then I'll roll it round, and once I get to the bit where there's no glue because I'm back onto the paper, I'll apply more glue as I go around. You can put glue on the paper, you can put glue on the cork, whichever works for you. But you want it well and truly glued on. I tend to then just give it a roll like that. Just works it in. And you might get some wrinkles, but you won't really see them. I've got a little bit at the top and the bottom that is bigger than the cork, so I'm just going to go around and snip so that I've got little cuts that go down to the edge of the cork so that I can bend them in. Do both sides. And if you put your scissors onto one of your blades of your scissors onto the cork, then you're going to get it right to the edge. I'm going to put a nice coating of PVA on the end of the cork. This is where it gets a little bit sticky, and you're going to work around pushing your little bits of paper over onto the end of the cork. Sometimes it takes a couple of goes at this. As I say, it is quite a sticky job. That's that. That's it. And then we'll set that aside to dry. Clean our fingers up a little bit because you'll be covered in glue and paper. Alright, we're back to our two little circles of card, and again I've got matching paper. So let's see, what I'm going to do is more watered down PVA onto our cardboard, go around the edges again as well. Pop it on to the back of your paper, and then just trim round. Do the second one. Again, watered down PVA. Yeah, that will be fine for later. So, and where you've got an edge, a blank edge to your paper, that will fold in and you won't see that, so that doesn't matter. And keep your excess paper because you will use it later. And trim round. And like we did with the cork, you're going to cut little segments in all the way around, just to the edge of your cardboard. You have got to make sure you go to the edge of your cardboard though, unless when you fold your little bits in, if you haven't got to the edge of the cardboard, there'll be a sharp square edge. So we do both of those. And then what we're going to do again is we're going to put glue on the edge of your cardboard, but also on the top. So you've got glue there and on your edge. And then you're going to do like you did before and fold it in. Add more glue as you go along to make sure each bit goes on top of the next and sticks. And try and keep your edges nice and smooth rather than square. It's rather warm here today, so this glue's drying very quickly. But it depends what the weather's like as to how quickly it dries. So you're just going to go all the way around, pulling your little tabs in. So basically you're covering the edge of your cardboard circle and you're going over to the inside edge. You can then put a bit more glue on just to make sure it's all stuck. Just go around the edges with your fingers to make sure that it's nice and smooth. And then you can set that aside to dry. So we've got our two discs covered on the back or on the base, whichever. So the next step is just to cover these again with a single piece of paper, and this time you don't need to go onto the reverse side because you've already covered the edges. So I've got some more music paper the same here. So you're just going to pop it down onto music paper. Leave it to dry, preferably. Which I won't, I'll just show you what you do. Once it's dry, then you can trim all the way around, being careful not to cut the paper that's already on there. All the way around your disc, as close as you possibly can to the edge. So that's covered your rough edges where you've folded them over. Again, the same again. As I say, as close as you can possibly get to the edge. There we are. So you've got two matching discs completely covered in music paper or whatever paper you want to use. If you don't like destroying books, even if they are going for recycling or going into the bin, you can use thin paper craft paper. It needs to be thin to be able to go onto the inside. You don't want anything really thick. You could even just use plain copier paper and then colour it up, paint it up later. Whatever you want to use. I like a vintage feel, so I've used music papers, etc. What I'm now going to do is I'm going to attach the middle piece of my bobbin to my circles. Very, very easy. Just decide which side. Imagine this is already sanded, because I would now, if it was dry, sand those edges just slightly with an emery board or a sanding block. I actually think these aren't too bad, so they don't need it. I think I want that to where my middle goes on to, and that to be the top, so I see that one. So I'm going to put glue onto the end of your cork. This is extra strong PVA, but if you hadn't got extra strong PVA, what you could do is you could use a glue gun and then press down jolly hard. Try and get it as central as you can. I do mine by eye. You could measure. You could get a ruler and measure side to side, top to bottom several times, so you get a dot in the middle. Once you've done that one, you do the other one. If there's a hole in your cork where your corkscrew's gone in, put a little bit in there. It will sink in, but that's fine. And then I find it easier to sort of lean over the top, which I won't do unless all you'll see is the back of my head. What you can do is you can pop it on, and while your glue is still not dry, wet, you can turn it over, see if you've got it fairly central, and reposition it. I think that looks about right. You might be a millimetre or so out, but it's not really going to be that important if you're a couple of millimetres out, unless you're way, way out. And then you basically leave it to dry. What I did with this one, I have inked it up a little bit as well with some distress ink. You can, if you're a paper crafter or a mixed media artist, anything, you can use a stamp and stamp once it's all dry onto there. So I put a butterfly on that one, and so I get a matching set. I might put a couple of butterflies on there, but I would do that when it is all dry and it's set, because if you try and stamp on that there now, it'll move and if your glue will come unstuck. You could, if you wanted, gesso it all and then do sort of texture paste or anything on the top. You could make it as complicated as you want, but for absolute beginners, that is a nice, easy little project to make a spool to hold ribbon, string, lace, whatever you feel like.